I tried it for like a week, tried to speak one type of way with my black friends, with my white friends, with my football guys. I tried, I gave it a go. It didn't work. This is a high quality quickie, yeah. By BscarTV. And we're back with another high quality quickie with BscarTV, and I'm your host, Scarlett. It's a beautiful day, as you can tell in these skylights behind me, all this natural light pouring in. And if you're listening and you can't see, it is an absolutely beautiful day here in Portland, Oregon. Today on our high quality quickie, we're going to talk about how to maximize and optimize content performance across different social media platforms. Mainly, we're going to talk about the importance of translating your content across platforms. If you don't speak the language of the platform ain't going to speak back. We'll start with a little story. You know me, I like story time. When I was at Berkeley, I was a college student, 18 years old, wet behind the ears, little old Portland, Oregon kid. Went down to the sunny state of California. My eyes were huge. Big heart, bigger dreams. The thing about Berkeley, the classes really make you think, man. They really make you think about who you are in the context of society, other people and their experiences and how they might differ from your own. So when I first got there, I was taking sociology courses. I was taking African American study courses, education, learning about the disparities of lower socioeconomic classes and higher, more affluent classes, and the differences of education and all these things. And it made me start to think about my own personal identity. As you can tell, I'm a light-skinned brother. I'm half white and I'm half black, which in American society, it can be a little confusing for a young man as you grow up, right? And you try to understand who you are. In some spaces, maybe you're not black enough. In other spaces, maybe you're not white enough, right? Or at least in your mind, you start to think these things. And there's things that I've gone through throughout the course of my life. And when I get to Berkeley, the subject matter allows you to dive deep into it, right? And really start to question, why you feel these things and feel this way growing up, right? Or currently in the current state. There's also the element of me being a football player. So I'm a football player, but I'm also in these Berkeley courses, which University of California, Berkeley is a very prestigious university, right? So I'm in the locker room, and then I'm in the business school which is called Haas Business School at Cal. And I've always been a decent student. I love to learn, right? And what I started to realize in my first or second year at Cal is man, I speak a totally different language in the locker room than I do in my classes. Totally different language. I use different slang. My vocabulary is much different. My grammar is different. Even maybe my tones and my inflections on my words are different. While I'm noticing these things, and then also having interrogations of my identity, start to question yo, am I fake? Am I inauthentic because of the way that I'm changing up my language from environment to environment? Or around certain groups of people, I speak one way, and around other groups of people, I speak another way. Start to ask these things. At first, I didn't have the answers. It's more than just the environments, right? It's when you're around your homies, you speak one way. But when you're around any maybe authority type figure, you speak a different way, right? Back then, when I was in college, I didn't know that it was called code switching. Now you call it code switching, and it's, it's understandable. I didn't know that, so I'm kind of going through this, right? It got to a point where I was you know what? Fuck it, I'm done. I'm not gonna change my language from environment to environment. I'm gonna just keep one way of speaking and communicating. I'm gonna stick to it. I tried it for a week. I tried to speak one type of way, whether I was, with my black friends, with my white friends, with my football guys, with my Haas professors. I tried. I gave it a go. It didn't work. It was uncomfortable, and I had to always think about it. It became something that I was okay, if I'm not keeping a consistent language, then now I don't know, it was too much. It wasn't natural. My communication, as a consequence of this unnatural way of being, my communication wasn't as effective as it was, or as it is, when I tweak or tailor my language based on the environment or the group of people with whom I'm speaking. When now I think about it, right now, being more mature, having some years under my belt, you know, a couple pelts on the wall, I realize that effective communication does mean that you're using the proper language. And just because you change your language, it doesn't make you less authentic. It's actually more authentic, because whoever you're communicating with gets a better idea of who you actually are, because they can understand your language more so than if you came at them with something different that they're not used to, right? Or that's not, you know, not the language that they typically speak or hear, or whatever the case is, right? So my conclusion was like, you know what? BsCar, Brennan, Scarlett, you know, this is just positive self-talk to you. BsCar, you know what? You are who you are, regardless of the situation that you're in, regardless of the scenario that you're in. It's your principles, it's your morals, it's your values, it's these things that make you who you are. How you speak, you know, as long as they convey those morals, values, principles, etc., then, you know, you are authentically being you. Just because you're using a different language, it doesn't change the core of that. So I rocked with that. And then now, you know, I'm older. I realize, like, if I'm going to Mexico, buenos dias. If I'm in Jamaica, wagwan. If I'm in Brazil, bom dia, right? It's natural to change your language as you go around the world and you speak to different types of people. It's natural. In a similar way, each platform in the social media ecosystem also has its own language. And it's important to translate your content strategy to match or effectively communicate on that particular platform. Each platform serves its own purpose. On LinkedIn, you're pushing an agenda. Period, point blank. I don't care what anyone has to say on LinkedIn, man, you are pushing your agenda. It's a professional network, right? So folks are there to further their careers, and they understand that other people are on that platform also to further their careers, and it's a space to connect. And that's why they say LinkedIn is one of the most trustworthy platforms, because it's very clear what folks are doing on there. If you're a retail business, you are trying to sell your goods, whatever that is. If you're a technology business, you are trying to peddle that software. If I'm on there and I'm trying to build a brand, I'm trying to communicate who Brennan Scarlett is and why it's important and why you should know about it, why you should connect and pay that man. If y'all know somebody, holla at me. On Instagram is an interesting one. It's like the happy medium, right? Most times people on Instagram are pushing an agenda, but the lines can be blurred, because people can also be on Instagram just for fun. You can just be having fun on Instagram. You know, you could just be posting the stories to communicate to friends and this, that, and the third. But then there are businesses, and there were also influence, and there's people there who are trying to leverage the platform and the connectivity in order to further their agenda. So Instagram has this balance of organic connection and just vibes, like, you know, communicating who you are personally, nurturing your personal network. And then on the other side, there is pushing your agenda. And then YouTube is a platform where that's like the distribution of your agenda. If you are a media company, or if your business has anything to do with long form media, it's typically distributed on YouTube. So it's literally your agenda. As you go from platform to platform, it's important to understand that on LinkedIn, the audience is there for a certain reason. That's either to push the agenda or to figure out how they can connect with someone who can help them push their agenda, or figure out how how can I go and help someone in my network further their agenda, whatever that is. On Instagram, you know that you got to strike a balance. It can't be all business on there. You can't all be agenda, because then that's inauthentic. That's not what people are all on Instagram for. They're on IG to connect. They're on IG to catch a vibe, to have fun. So if you're a business, then how are you curating that vibe? If you're just an individual and you have an aspect of business, you have an aspect of lifestyle, how are you communicating that in a way that feels comfortable to Instagram users and to that audience where you can really lock in and connect? And then on YouTube, people are there to consume content. They're there to watch. They're there to view. And so are you giving them content that they can enjoy, that they're willing to sit through? Is the duration, is it too long? Is it too short? Do they want a little bit more? Who is the audience? Who's there watching? There was a day when BscarTV was, only 2 seasons old, where translating across platforms was not something that we did well at all, specifically on YouTube. I'm a native Instagrammer. That was like one of the first social media platforms that I used. I think maybe it was the first after MySpace, Facebook, it was Instagram. And because I'm a native Instagram user, have an understanding of how the platform works. I know how I consume content, so it gives me an insight on how others consume content. And that's not everyone. Everyone doesn't consume content the same way that I do, but I at least had like a peek because I was a user. When BscarTV, when we first started doing our podcast, I assumed that YouTube, it was the same, it was consumed the same way. We'd do an hour long conversation, maybe an hour and a half long conversation, and then we'd just throw it up, put it on the platform and be like, yeah, people will find this high quality content, baby. They'll find it. And that's a lot of times what we did on Instagram, right? But on Instagram, we were nurturing our community because that's where we were. That's where I was spending my time there. I didn't spend time on YouTube. I've never been a YouTube content consumer. In season 3, however, we took a step back and we reviewed and we reflected and was like, man, something's got to change. Our performance is pretty stagnant across the first 2 seasons on that platform. So what we started to do was think about, how does the audience want to consume content? Do they really want to sit through the 4-hour-long podcast? Maybe some of them do, but what about those who just want a quick burst? What if we chop down the hour-long or the 90-minute-long conversation? What if we chop them down into 4 or 5-minute highlights? Make them a little bit easier to digest, more digestible content. What if we do that? We call them our mid-lengths. Oh, there's YouTube Shorts now. Okay, so what if we break them down into 60-second highlights? And so from each episode, now we have a formula, right? That boom, we're feeding the algorithm, but we're feeding the audience what they really want to eat, what they want to consume, and what they're used to consuming on that particular platform. Because when you go on YouTube, you don't expect to see the same stuff that you see on Instagram. It's different. It speaks a different language, as does LinkedIn, as does Instagram. I'm not a Twitter user. I'm not an X user. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I don't see the value. I don't see the value. If I got a thought, man, pop it in my Instagram caption. Come on, I'll give you a visual with it too, because a picture says what? 1,000 words. But that's just me. If y'all got any opposing views, I'd love to hear. What's the utility of Twitter? What's the utility of X? That is a brief overview of how to translate your content across different social media platforms so that you can effectively communicate and optimize, maximize your content. A great content strategy, it's a beautiful thing. High quality content, it's even more beautiful. But if you don't know how to communicate, it falls on deaf ears. What'd you say? I'll see y'all next time for the following part to our series of brand development. If you didn't catch part 2, go back and check that out. That was an introduction to a self-study to help to come to understand who you are, why you are, how you are, to then be able to tailor a content strategy according to that. And now this is, translating your content strategy across platforms. For our next episode, we'll be talking more about actually the execution of your content strategy. How do you maintain consistency? That's a key. Consistency is a key. And, I'm going on, I've been creating content for 7 years now. Consistency is like this. up and down for me. I'm gonna keep it real, but I'm trying to get here, trying to stay here, and I'll share with you some tips and tricks that I found that work for me. This is Brennan Scarlett with another high quality quickie. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Please be sure to subscribe, give me a comment, give me some feedback. What do you think about this brand development? Am I on track? Am I off track? Would love to hear your thoughts. Constructive criticism is great. We always trying to get better because the pursuit of high quality content is an endless pursuit. Catch y'all next time. Peace. This episode of BscarTV has been brought to you by Scarlett Creative. For the full-length video episode and more content, find us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at BscarTV. And please, leave us a review. Drop a comment. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? Who do you want to hear from? We would love to hear from you. This is your host, with the most, Brennan Scarlett, signing off. Peace.